Hey, this is Guido. I'm currently in Montalcino in the vineyards of Le Montalcino in the northwest of the area. These are some of the more high elevation vineyards in the region. Even with that said, the family has recently purchased parcels at even higher areas closer to the town of Montalcino, around 600 meters. This is certainly a trend that we're seeing in the region. Vineyards like Lume Spento and new parcels been planted by Gaia, looking at higher elevations to try to mitigate the warmth of the last decade worth of warm and dry vintages that we've seen here in the region. I'm here primarily tasting the 2020s. This is just an early look. I come back in the fall to taste the wines from bottle when they are closer to release. These trips are more about getting into the vineyards with producers, talking about the current vintages, the ones that are in barrel, and then talking about the vintages about to be released to really understand their ideas of how the wines came to be. I'm also tasting a lot of 2022 Rossos. Now, 2020 is a really interesting year because this was the COVID year. This was the year that families were locked down. Winemakers were spending a lot of time in the vineyards. Many winemakers will say that they were more like their garden than their vineyards. Keep in mind, there would be no planes flying overhead, extremely small amount of cars driving by. Anyone that visits a winemaking region knows that there's a lot of dust and debris that blows up off the roads and covers the plants. That didn't happen in 2020, so it was a completely unique year. Also, while it was a very warm year, they received a good amount of precipitation. As a result, the wines, they have a warm vintage feel, but they're very fresh, and they actually have a nice sweet tannin profile. And keep in mind, these are just early impressions. My final analysis takes place in a few months from now. But at the moment, while the vintage seems to be a year that's going to be more forward and approachable, there's a really nice balance to the wines that I'm really enjoying. As to the 2022s, well, now we're talking about a year that's very warm. These are the Rossos, and very dry. In 2022, the region didn't have any rain between March into middle August. But the saving grace was that rain in middle August brought much cooler temperatures. And so while the wines are definitely warm, lush, concentrated, they have a really pretty balance and complexity that they found throughout that final month leading up to harvest. I'm actually enjoying the 2022 Rossos quite a bit, but again, more approachable, warm vintage wines. With that said, we have some really interesting things coming down the pipeline when it comes to 2023. A very low production year, but a large amount of precipitation and cooler. And now, even now in 2024, cross my fingers, they've been having a really beautiful vintage here. Good balance of rain and temperature. In fact, these days are the first days the region's really started to warm up, which is really, really good news for Montalcino, because while we've been seeing these really warm, dry vintages, the last 2 years have not been quite that bad. So we'll see again in the fall when we can get the final analysis of these wines. But for now, there's certainly some interesting things to look forward to. It's just that we're talking about more forward wines, more approachable vintages, but still, some really great wines.